Okay, so we have created our migrations, we've created our seeds, we now have a database on our machine. We're going to hook it up to Express. So we're going to create an API that allows us to interact with the database. Now, the common term for this is CRUD. We create, we read, we update, and delete. So these are all the operations that we're performing on the database, and we're going to have Express routes that match to each one of these words. So create a new ice cream, read all of the ice creams, read one ice cream, update an existing ice cream, delete an ice cream. And CRUD is a thing. Commit it to memory. This is basically the rest of your career. You will be CRUDing all day long. That's basically application development. You CRUD against the database. You build APIs that CRUD. Yeah, it's actually really fun though, because like the APIs that you create, you can get. They will be slightly more complex than as simple as this, but for now, we're going to create like fairly simple APIs that are just operating on the database to do these operations. And let's add a little poop emoji. Sweet.
Like developer, like app.
CRUD. Sweet. So what we're going to do is set up an Express app inside of this same folder where I have my migrations and seeds. So right inside of here, I'm going to create, what am I going to create? Let me get this. So currently we are, let's do this, create an Express app. That's what I'm working on right now. Let me make this a little smaller. Cool. So in the root of this directory, what do I need? What's the first thing I need for an Express app?
Install Express.
I could do that. Why not? So npm install S Express. So now I have Express. What next? Raise a hand. It's not a trick question. Read that file. Yeah, like somewhere to put the stuff. So let's touch app.js. And let's create our Express app inside of here. So const express equals require express. Cool. So got Express. I then want an app, and that's going to be express invoked. I then want to listen on a port. Log. Listening on port. And you might be wondering, what is port? Well, it is process.env.port or 3000. Cool. Got an app. Done. All right. Next thing, we're going to create a routes folder. So the other day when I showed this, I created a single file called routes. Today, I'm going to create a folder called routes and have a file inside of that that is going to contain our router. That's going to be the one that has all of the different routes inside of it. This is good practice because as you get more routes in your app, each of the different like endpoints should be in a different file. So let's do that. So right in here, I'm going to create a new folder and call it routes. And then inside this folder, I'm going to create a new file and call it icecream.js. So icecream.js is going to be all of the routes pertaining to ice cream, getting stuff from the database for ice cream. Okay, so now I'm in this icecream.js file. I'm going to create a router. So we'll bring in Express. I am then going to create a router. It's going to be express.router invoked. And then what do I need to do to make this router available in app.js? Module.exports. So module.exports equals the router. And inside of here, I'm just going to do one get route. So I'm going to say router.get. When a get request comes in on slash, actually let's make it slash ice cream. When a get request comes in on slash, I have this request handler, request response. And right now, I am just going to respond with an empty array. Okay, got a router, it's got an endpoint, it responds with an empty array. In app.js, how do I mount the router on the app? What's the first thing I need to do? There's a hand. Rob. Okay, so right here, what is the variable?
Router,
Let's call it ice cream. And what's this going to be? Require. Yeah, so if I do /routes and then /ice cream, that will require that router into this file. Cool. Another volunteer, how do I mount this router on the app? Somebody over here. Matthew, you look like maybe you know? Yeah, app.use, and there's pass an ice cream. So now all of the routes I defined in the ice cream router are available to this app. Cool. Cool. Now, let's start this thing up. I'm just going to do nodemon, but before I do that, in my package JSON, I'm going to make main app.js, and I'm going to create a start script. So the start script will be node app.js. And then I'll create a dev script that will just do nodemon. So if I do npm run dev, we will be listening on port 3000. So I can bring up Postman.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so what is exactly the main benefits of using routers instead of using just a simple basic get and express?
You mean like right here, why didn't I just do app.get? For modularity and keeping code separate, because the ice cream router is going to have at least 4 routes on it. So if I put all of those in here, this file will quickly grow. So by pulling them out, I just keep the code separate. That's the main benefit.
Yeah, I mean the object itself, the router object itself, what it does exactly?
It's a mini app, so it allows us to specify endpoints with a HTTP verb, an endpoint, and a request handler. And so like we can put many of these in this one file, and we can have many different router files that all have different endpoints like that. It's basically a mini app. All right, so I want to get that empty array. What's the URL of the thing that I need to request? Raise a hand. Marlena. So http://localhost :3000 / ice cream. Go. Empty array. Yay! Sweet. Okay, so we've hooked up Express. We've got a router. Now comes the CRUD. So list all records with a GET request to /things. So in our case, we have a GET request to /ice cream. So inside of this route, I want to actually query the database to get the data from the ice cream table. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a database connection that I can reuse throughout my app. So in this folder, I'm going to create a new folder called db. Inside of it, I'm going to create a file called Knex.js. And this file is going to export a connection to the database. So the first thing I need to do is get the environment. And right now, it's just development. And basically what I'm doing is this Knex file right here, this is the connection information for connecting to the database. So I'm going to be using the development object to pass into Knex to connect to this database. So first I have my environment. I'll then say my config is going to be from Knex file. So I want to get access to Knex file. If we look at Knex file, it exports an object, right? So in this file, how can I get that object into this file? Requires the first thing. And what would I type? Jason? Just Knex file? /Knex file? /Knex file? And think about this. So you're on the right track. This is a relative path. Where is this file right now? It's in the DB folder. So thinking in relative paths, how am I going to get the Knex file? Go up one directory and grab the Knex file. Yeah, and right now I'll just log this, make sure that we get it. So let's just run that file directly. You would never do this, but I'm just showing you what's actually happening in there. So if I do node db/Knex, it logs that object, right? Because we required it in with a relative path. Get used to this. Like, you're going to be creating modules all over your Express app, and you're going to be able to require them in with relative paths. Alex.
So, does it, I mean, obviously it happens, but like, how do you try and like fight against the fact that you might be changing your file structure around? Do you have to go manually into?
Yeah, I think there's something you can add to your package JSON where it will automatically search the file tree and find the first thing. But for now, relative paths.
It's like, what was the language last night?
Marco?
Yeah, that's how it's so fast.
Well, not fast, but like instead of having to do this, you just say, hey, give me the Knex file, and it automatically knows, oh, go up one directory and get it. Yeah. Cool. So we've got the config, but notice this is an object that has a property called development. So if I log config at the environment, which is equal to development, I'm going to get just that object with the connection to the database, right? Cool. So using this, so let's call this environment config.
Will it always be development?
Locally on your machine, yes, but when we deploy, it will be production.
Okay, that's why you put it into a variable.
Yeah, because when we deploy, I'll do something like this: process.env.node.env. And let me get this out of the way. Yeah, so when we're deployed, node.env is going to be production, and then when we deploy, we'll add a production connection in here. And that will be a connection to like an actual database hosted in the cloud somewhere, not somewhere on our local machine.
What does env stand?
Environment. Yeah. Cool. So I've got the environment config. Now I need to pass this configuration into Knex to get a database connection. So I'll say const Knex equals require Knex, and then I'm going to invoke Knex and pass in the environment. Actually, I won't do that. I'll just say const connection equals Knex invoked with the environment config. So I'm passing that object into Knex so it knows how to connect to the database. I am then going to make this connection available to the world. So module.exports equals connection. And so now, anywhere in my app, if I want to connect to the database, I just require in this file. I don't have to memorize all this, like getting the config file and all that other stuff. I'm just going to require this file in and then use that connection. Cool. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create a place where all of my database queries are going to go. And I'm going to do that inside of the DB folder. So right inside of DB, I'm going to create a new file and call it queries.js. Now this file is going to export any queries that I may use elsewhere in my app. So the first thing I should do is get the connection to the database. So right here, I'll say const Knex equals require. Now I want to require this Knex.js file. So what should I type right here? /Knex, because it's in the same folder, so I'm requiring that file that's in the same folder. Cool. Now I'm going to export an object that has queries on it. So I'll say module.exports equals an object. And we'll notice our first task here is list all records with get/things. So I'm going to create a function called get all ice cream. I don't like that capitalization. I'm just going to say, actually, let's do this. Let's give it an ice cream property that is an object, and on ice cream, it will have a function called get all. So this is going to be a function. And this function right here is what is going to query the database. So using Knex, I want to select all the rows in the database. So, well, in that specific table. So if I do Knex and then the name of the table, that will select all of the rows in the table. This really is shorthand for just like select, and then you can pass in star. But In this case, I'm just going to leave it off. And then here, I'm going to return that query so that way we can actually use it. So now this file defines an object. The object has a property called ice cream. Ice cream has a function called getAll. GetAll returns the query to the database to get all rows from the database.
Why wouldn't you just export Knex like do that directly instead of?
I wanted to, I could have other queries in here. I could have ice cream table, candy table, and so that way the queries are separate for each of the different ones. That's the main reason. So now, in my ice cream route, I want to require in that queries file. I want everyone to either type it on your machine or write it in front of you. What is going to be the path to require in queries? So right here I'm going to say queries equals require. So right now I'm in routes and I'm in this ice cream file. I want to require this queries file. So what is going to be the thing that I put inside of those quotes? Everyone write it down or type it out. Alright, it's going to be a relative path. Think about, you got to go up some directories, you got to go down some directories. What is the relative path? Actually, I'll zoom in on the file tree. It'll be a little easier to see. Right? So I'm in this file, and I want to require in that file.
You can't use that little cute little slash triple dot, and it's like it's
No,
not
it has to be a full relative path.
Yes, so if you wanted to do something beyond what this is, you need to start with the
No, you could do dot dot slash dot dot slash.
right.
You go back to
Okay.
yeah, you should keep doing those.
What is the first thing I need to type? Raise a hand. Jake.
Dot.
Dot. So I'm in the routes folder. I need to go up one directory. So I go up one directory. Now I'm in basically this whole folder. What's the next thing that I should type? Ross.
Slash D.
/db. So go up one directory, go into the db folder. And then what's the next thing I need to type? Sean. /queries. /queries. Yeah, and you can leave off the .js. But yeah, you can have it there too, but if you leave it off, it'll still know what you mean. Yeah, so we're in the routes folder, we go up one, we go into db, we grab that file. We now have access to the queries. So if we look at our queries file, it exports an object that has an ice cream property that has a getAll property. So right in here, I want to actually query the database. So I'm going to do queries dot. I want to access that getAll function. What's the next thing I should? So I'm trying to get access to getAll right there. So what should I type right here? Raise a hand. Somebody I haven't heard from. Michael.
Ice cream.
Yeah, that ice cream. So queries dot ice cream, and then what's the next thing? Just dot getAll. And let's close this. Sweet. So we'll do ice cream dot getAll. We'll invoke it, and Knex is promise based. So we'll say, hey Knex, get all the rows in the table. It's going to take a while because it has to query the database. And then we're going to get back the ice creams. And just like that, we will res.json the ice creams. Yeah. So a GET request comes into /ice cream. We then query the database for all ice creams. We get it back as an array, and then we send it back as a JSON response. Rob.
Where's that ice cream array?
The database. So the idea being that .getAll returns this promise that will actually run that query against the database.
You don't have to like declare anything else. Just create it.
Well, because that's the idea. Like basically the return value or the thing that's going to be called in the callback is the array from, well, really the result of running this query, which is an array of values. So here, .then, we're passing it a function. Yeah, so it's a function that accepts a parameter. We could call this anything we want. We know it's going to be an array of ice cream, so we're calling it that. Just like that, we're CRUDing. Check this shit out. Send. Boom!
Whoa!
Yeah, fucking shit. Like, ugh. Right? So get request on /ice cream. It queries the database. It gets back the data. We respond with JSON. Boom.
Alright guys, I'm going home.
Sweet. And this is the first part of CRUD. So the acronym is not in order, but okay, look at the acronym, create, read, update, delete. What would this fall under? Read, because we're not doing any sort of modification, we're just reading the data from the database. So this is read, and really there's like read all, which is what we just did. So let's check a box. List all records with get/things. Cool. I'm going to go right into getting by ID before I do the others, because we're probably not going to have time. But shows one record with get/things/ID.
Did we not already create with the Knex stuff?
Creating a new ice cream. So we created sample data, but what if somebody wants to fill in a form to create a new ice cream? We need a route to handle that.
It's not the table of the structure.
Right, it's a row in the table. Yeah. Okay, so we have, let's do this. Show one record with get/things/ID. So right in this file, I want a new route that's /something/ID. So router.get. What do I need to type right here to match that? His hand, Caroline.
So /ice cream and /colon and then whatever you want to call it. So like flavor or ID.
It is going to be ID, because the idea is if we look at what came back, all of these ice creams each have an ID, but I want to be able to make a request to ice cream /13 and only get back Cherry Garcia, or ice cream /11 and only get back pistachio. Okay, so it's going to be /ID. I then have my handler, rec, res, and then we have a request handler. So now in my queries file, I'm going to create a new function. So we have get all. We'll call this get1. This will be a function that accepts the ID and then does a Knex query. So Knex, and then we specify the ice cream table. If I'm doing a select statement here, what do I need to get the thing that has this ID? A where clause. Marlena, you think you know what it might be?
Not in Knex.
Okay. Actually, everyone do this in SQL. Let's write it in front of you or write it on your computer. What would be the SQL query to get an ice cream with ID 13?
Every time I think of where clause, I think of like a werewolf, but instead of that, I kind of like return to Santa Claus.
So you have a SQL statement that will get the ice cream with the ID.
Or whatever. You can look up for this. Perfect.
Table is called ice cream. We want to select the ice cream where the ID is 13. So select the ice cream where the ID is 13. So that's English. That is not SQL. It's going to be a select statement. All right, somebody help me out. What's the first SQL command we're going to need here? Rob.
Select.
Select. Okay, what are we selecting? Caroline. Star. So that means select all columns. What's next? Will. From. What's next? Arlena? Table name, ice cream. So select star from ice cream. Jason, what comes next? Where? Jace. ID. Steven, any idea? Equals. Austin. 13. Cool. So if we were writing raw SQL, this is what we would say. Select star from ice cream where ID equals 13. Cool. We want to do this with Knex. We say select star from ice cream where ID is equal to 13, and that'll do it. But I want this to be dynamic, so instead of saying 13, I'm going to use the parameter, and so that way I could pass in any ID, and it'll select any row that has that given ID. Cool? What?
So I know that you create the route with ID, but where's that getting ID from? Like, how's that?
Oh, we're gonna call it now. So yeah, we created this function. Now we need to call it inside of the route. So yeah, so right here, I'm gonna do queries dot ice cream dot get one, and here I'm gonna pass in the ID. What is the ID in this case? Jason. Yeah, so how do we get access to that? Who remembers? Matt?
Rec.params.
Yeah, so this is going to be the ID that was passed into the URL. We're going to pass it into that get1 function, and then we're going to get something back. So get1, then this will be ice cream, and we will res.json that ice cream. Yeah.
So theoretically, if you want to be like not clean, could you do the query in here? Or is it
Absolutely, but I want you to start doing it out here because so many students will start doing it in here and then never get in the habit of moving it out. And really the idea is like separation of concerns. Like now that you have this queries file, you can use it anywhere in your app. If you were to, you could write this code directly inside of this route, but then it's like stuck in that route. If you ever wanted to do the same thing, you'd have to rewrite that code. So this is just really good practice to kind of like group all of your Knex queries together so that way anywhere in your app, if you want to use it, you just require in this file and then you can use it. Go ahead.
I think you kind of talked about this, but so if I'm going to select like a specific column, say of ice cream, like
Yeah.
all of them.
So that would select only the flavor column. You can do a comma separated list. So flavor and rating. That would only select the flavor and rating from that. Yeah.
Flabber.
What?
Flabber.
Did I say that? Doesn't matter.
You were putting G's.
Okay. Cool. So when a get request becomes /ice cream /ID, we're going to get the one ice cream that has that ID. Just like that, ice cream /12 gives us back mint chocolate chip. Yeah? Huh? Huh?
Wait,
Ice cream /15 Rocky Road. What's that?
So since this like deletes everything and then recreates it, is that the
This does. I mean, the seeds do.
yeah? So the ID is gonna keep changing, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. If I do like ID 4, nothing, because it's not there anymore. But ID 12 is mint chocolate chip. Cool. Notice though that it gave me back an array. Even though there's only one in it, it gave me back an array. And that is because that's how the SQL select statement works. Like when you say select star from table, like it doesn't know if there's only going to be one result. It's going to give you back everything. In this case, it's an array of length 1. So Knex has this built-in .first, and that will only give you the first row from the query. So that way, instead of getting back an array, we actually get back an object. Yeah.
What if you don't want the first one?
What?
Yeah, they're like
If you know
that.
that there's one.
If you know that there's one, that's when to use it. If you're going to be like if you're going to get back results and then search in that array, then you wouldn't use first. You'd have to like do something else. Cool. That's it though. So we can get all ice creams. We can get individual ice creams. We're reading all day long. Cool. Honestly think this might be a good place to stop. Because we haven't really talked about post requests, so should we? If you want to hear it, raise your hand. Okay. No. Well, that's the thing. We have career services after lunch, and then and a lightning talk.
I mean, you could just do it as a lightning talk.
Yeah. You're going today? Cool. All right. Let's just do it. So.
Can you post this video like right after?
Oh, absolutely. I'll upload it. I'll upload it when it's done. You can follow along, definitely, and I'll share the code too.
play this all night on repeat while I sleep.
Metal. Yeah, and so I have videos of me doing this stuff, but I'm writing the queries in line. Like I want you guys to get in the practice of like putting things in modules early on. But yeah, I'll share this out. Okay, so we are reading one. We are reading all. The next thing we're going to work on is creating one. So when a post request comes into our server with a new ice cream, we're going to insert that into the database. So the first thing I need to do before I create this post route is include body parser. Body parser is a middleware that will parse out the body of the incoming request, so that way we can use it inside of our app. After I do it, we'll kind of explain what's happening, but let's install it. So right in this folder, npm install, save it, body parser. I'm going to go to the body parser documentation. And they have an example code on how to set it up. Right about here. So app.use, URL encoded, and JSON. So I'm just going to copy both of these. Basically, my app will now, if somebody posts a JSON object, my app will understand that. If somebody posts a form, my app will also understand that. So I'm going to use those two things in my app.js. So right up here, I'm going to require in body parser. And right about here, I'm going to use it. So now my app supports sending it JSON or sending it form data. Let's see how we can actually use that though. So in this router, I need to create a new route. I'm going to do router.post. It's going to go against /ice cream. Ice cream. And right now we're talking about CRUD. I was going to mention Restful Routing. So check this out. The GET request comes into /ice cream. But the idea with Restful Routing is when a GET request comes into the resource, that means you should send back all of that resource. If a POST request comes to the resource, that means that somebody is sending you data that's trying to create a resource of that type. So when a POST request comes in, we're going to be creating a new ice cream. But right here, I could just log rec.body, because rec.body will, I'm just going to just do that so it ends right now. But rec.body will be the actual data that we're sending to the server. So
Sorry, I was going to say, I know why Kyle always says
rec.body, yeah. So that's going to be the body of the request. But let's just send a post request to see how that works out. So I'm going to open a new tab. I'm going to make a post request against /ice cream. Now inside of Postman, if you click on body, you can choose raw and then choose JSON. And right in here, we can define a JSON object that we're going to be sending to the server. So in this case, I'm just going to say message is hello. But when I click send, it's going to make a post request to the server with this data. This route is then going to get hit. It's going to log the body of the request and then just respond with that. But let's click send. Responded with wat. But if I look in the terminal over here, it actually logged the body of the request, right? Message hello. So in Express, we have full access to the data that's being sent to our server. And so whatever is in this object, we'll get access to. So let's actually like make an ice cream. So we'll do flavor. What else do we have?
Yeah, boy.
Rating.
Do you have to put the keys quotes for this?
Yes, because it's JSON.
Okay.
And the idea, yeah, because rating will do 8. And for color, somebody give me another ice cream flavor.
Chicken.
Oreo, which doesn't help.
Chicken flavored ice cream. Cool. So I'm making a post request that has a flavor, a rating, and a color. So now over here, when I make the post request, I should see it logged. There you go. Chicken, rating, color. So we're now going to take that data that was sent to us and put it in the database, right?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. All right, let's make a query. So right here, we'll do a create query. This will be a function that takes in an ice cream. We'll then return Knex on the ice cream table dot insert and pass in the ice cream. Simple as that.
So the post requesters it has to match the like structure of the table exactly, or will it fail?
Yeah, definitely. So right now I'm not doing any validation. Next week we're going to talk about data validation. Inside of our route, I'm going to make sure that rec.body has a flavor, has a rating, has a color.
Is that like the
Well, so that's the database restriction, but here I would actually, before trying to send it to my database, I would make sure that it has all the properties that I'm expecting. So right here, I'm going to do queries dot create. I will pass in rec.body, and then I'll get back the result. I don't know what it's going to be, and we'll just res.send the result. Actually, the result will be the ID of the thing that just got inserted, but we'll change that in a second. So a post request comes in. We then call create. Oh, actually, I need queries.icecream.create. Rec.body then represents an object that has all the properties of an ice cream. I then insert it into the database. Then after I've inserted it, I will respond with whatever the database gives me back, which is going to be the ID. So just like that, now when I go to create chicken flavor, it worked. But notice this is kind of weird. This is all the information about the thing that was inserted, like how many rows were inserted, the command that it ran. That means nothing to me. So with Knex, you can define what you want to get back after an insert. So right here, if you do a dot returning and then pass in star, that will return all of the columns of the thing that was just inserted. So this will insert the ice cream and then give it back to me with its ID. Go ahead.
So CJ, when you did the insert here, so did you like send all of the JSON file in one?
I sent this.
cell?
I sent the body of the request was a JSON object that represented an ice cream.
Okay, and I mean, the database and the table itself, does all of these things saved in one cell? Or
In one row. Yeah, so and actually that's a good thing to do. So now when I do a GET request to all ice cream, if I scroll all the way down, chicken's there, ID 16. So each new post request is going to insert a new row, and then when I get all, it's going to appear in the rows. Austin?
If you put any information out of order,
That'll be totally fine.
will it put it in order?
Knex will do it for you. The only thing Knex cares about is these properties must match the columns in the database, in the table. Will?
And your post is always going to be it's going to be like appending the next incremented ID.
Yeah, and so you notice I didn't specify an ID, but it's always going to be the next one. So if I do a post request right now, it's going to create a new chicken one, but it's going to have the next ID. And the thing that I was testing out right now, when I do returning star, now instead of getting this weird info, I'm going to get back the actual thing that was just inserted. So now I get back chicken with ID 17, ID 18. I'm just going to have a bunch of chicken in there. But now, when I do a GET request, all those chickens are in there, each with a new ID. It's a new row in my database, in my table. Sick. Cool. What's that?
It's like neon, tops, vanilla.
There you go. One last thing, though. Notice how this returns an array. I only want to get back the one thing that I inserted. So inside of the route itself, we'll call this results. And if I return results at 0, that will just return the one thing that was inserted.
You can't do like the first.
No, because the way that insertion works, there's no equivalent SQL for that. It's like an insertion is going to return an array of everything that was inserted. Cool. But now we're creating things. I am doing all of this with Postman. we very much could create a front end that makes these AJAX requests to our API now, right? This is just like for testing, but I am not too far off from making a full stack app that's communicating with this backend
We're
API.
gonna do that tomorrow.
What is tomorrow? I think that'd be good to do tomorrow. I think we had something else planned, but probably. I'll say that.
So we can like technically create a API.
Hell yeah, that talk to a real database. The only thing we haven't covered is deployment. I'll see how we're doing on time this afternoon. Heroku is usually really involved, but I was messing around with potentially deploying to now and then using this other thing for our database. We'll see though. But yeah, so we have created, we have read. The last things to add are update and delete. Works in a very similar fashion, but we're just creating different types of routes that do different things. So I would have a query that does an update command to the database where an ID is a given value, and then a query that does a delete to the database where an ID is a given value.
So in your queries file here, you listed all of those, the gets, the get one and the create under ice cream. If you were to have different endpoints, would those just be basically the type of object?
Yeah, and I might actually put those in separate files. But yeah, I could do like ice cream, I could do candy, and that would be all the candy queries. I could do users, and then that would be all the user queries. But it really just allows me to separate them out by table name.
So it'd probably be better than multiple endpoints to be different like query files.
Definitely, because then inside of here, I could get even more modular with it. I could have an ice cream queries file, a candy queries file, a users queries file, and then I could require those queries into this file, which exports an object, or I could require those individual queries file in the routes file.
If all of that information was stored in like maybe one database or it was in different databases, would you be able to still access it at different points then?
It would all come down to what connection I'm using. So right now, this connection is the connection to that specific database. If you had multiple databases, you would just have multiple connections and then use those instead. Cool. Any questions or comments? This is the beginnings of the rest of your life. But yeah, CRUD, it's a great thing. I will push this code up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Have a good lunch. Yeah.